So you decided to become addicted to coffee and ramen noodles. Welcome to college. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to StarRow. I'm happy to see you guys. So today we're going to talk about college. Now, right now it's July, and a lot of people right now, they've already graduated sometime in May or in June. A lot of people are looking forward to going to college, or maybe you have kids who are going to go to college in August, September, so sometime soon. And I just wanted to do this video to just provide some advice on the college journey. Now, before I get into any details, this video is going to be a little longer than the usual length that I do, just because there's a lot of in-depth experience that I really want to share and to just want to help somebody. Mind you, this is going to be based on my own personal experience of going through college, and I am going to pull from a well of 4 years of trial and error, and I'm just going to give some advice. Now, this is not meant to be, this is how you get through college from point A to point Z perfectly. This is more of, hey, this is what college is really like, and what are some things that I could do? And I'm going to talk about things that I didn't do that I think would have really helped me. So just to pass it along to somebody else, so that way you can have an easier experience. All right, so sit tight and let's prepare for the lecture with Professor StarRow. Lecture number 1, major selection and understanding the college transition. Major selection is a huge question that a lot of high school juniors are propped into. Usually when you're doing your junior year, you usually want to, go into a college trying to get accepted into a major. Because some colleges will accept you, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe sometimes you have to get accepted into the major. This can be a very difficult thing to do, especially since, you've been raised practically since the day you were born all the way up to 18 to do everything that a teacher and your parents tell you to do. And now they're basically saying, get ready to choose your life for the next 50 or so years. Yeah, that's a great head start, a great preparation for success, ain't it? But anyways, let's just talk about it. If I'm being honest with you guys, if you're not hard set on becoming a doctor or a lawyer, something that's going to take a lot of time, and you're still not sure, it's okay to go in undecided, to declare as undecided, because technically that first 2 years of college, you're going to change a lot. So I'm not discouraging you from choosing your major if you know that's what you want, because if you know that's what you want, then it's a head start. But if you don't really know what you want, then I'm really going to stress that you go in undecided, right? Because you are going to change a lot. You have to think you're going to be going from, being supervised by your parents, being supervised by teachers, school security, all those people 24/7, to now having your own free time to basically do what you please and do it when you please. Now, obviously, this is going to depend on how much finances you have, but still, you're going to have a greater sense of freedom than you used to having. So certain interests that you might not have realized you've had before, you're going to start to cultivate those interests. And the best way to go about this, in my opinion, is I'll say it like this. And I know this is going to probably make some people a little upset that I'm going to say this, but you got to get it off your chest. If you choose to do a major that's not in STEM, right? And STEM means science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Those careers or those degrees usually are a very straightforward path into a job right after college. There's no arguing it. And then you have all the other degrees, right? The degrees that are traditionally people would consider useless or maybe not too much value in the job market. Let me just get something out there. Most people work in a field that they didn't go to school for. If you get a degree in something that's not a straightforward trajectory to a job, it's not necessarily the end of the world. It just means you're going to have to network 3 times as hard throughout your college journey. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the video, but you're going to have to learn how to start looking to see, what you would want to do for work. I know that kind of seems tedious, but trust me, if you start the networking process right as soon as you step on campus and you're taking that major, it's going to help you calm a lot of your worries about where you're going to work. But you got to start that process immediately if you're going to do a major that's not, considered in high demand in the job market. Now, learn the ins and outs. So when you get to your orientation, they're going to do a presentation that's going to be full of a lot of details. They're going to be telling you about, the transition, like the little stereotypical things that happen, the stress and the anxiety of being away from home. We'll also talk about, living on campus versus living off campus. But anyways, they're there to, with your parents to kind of give you that final goodbye, kind of handing you off, especially if you're staying on campus. You will learn a lot about the college experience, and they do try their best to make it as, I guess, empathetic as possible, but really learn the ins and outs. When I mean learn the ins and outs, like I'm going to give you an example of something that I was not too aware of, right? Because I'm a first generation. So if you're first generation, maybe this will help you. And if not, just, if it helps, I'm glad it does. There is a thing called pass and non-complete, right? In my college when I went there. And essentially what this meant was that you could take a course, and before I think the first month of the course was over, you would have to fill out this form and then get it signed by the professor and also get it signed. And essentially what it meant was you would take a class, and let's say it was probably an elective and something that wasn't your major, and it was like a requirement, or maybe if it was just a way to fill up some credits, the class, if you got a passing grade, it would count as a pass. And then if you didn't get a passing grade, it would just say non-pass. But the biggest perk of this was that your GPA would not be affected by this class. So technically speaking, if you got an A in the class, it won't go towards your GPA. But if you got a C or possibly a D, which usually some colleges don't allow Ds, but if you get a C, then it'll just say you passed anyway, and it won't go towards your GPA. I highly recommend, if your college gives this opportunity, take advantage of it, because again, there will be times you'll be stuck in a course that is maybe not as pertinent to your major or pertinent to what you got going on. And I'm not telling you to do bad intentionally, but I'm saying that if you got to put your eggs in one basket more than the other, then, give yourself that leisure to say, okay, maybe if I put extra time into this course, then I can possibly afford to be a little negligent towards this one, and it still won't affect my GPA at the end of the day. So that's what I would keep in mind. Also understanding professors, and the syllabus. So when you got to elementary school, middle school, high school, they gave you the syllabus, which was like a thing to take home to your parents so that they could sign it. And it usually has the rules of the class and what the teacher expects out of the children and what the rules they have. Well, similar thing in college, except you will be signing because you're an adult. So no more parents bailing you out like they used to. You have to accept responsibility. Now, one of the beauties of the syllabus in college is that the syllabus is laid out from top to bottom. So what does this mean? You will see the whole timeline of the whole entire class, literally from day one. All the homework that's due, all the quizzes that you have, the exams that you're going to have, you will know when these things are coming. So if you've heard any stories of people who are doing bad in college, trust me, it's not because they don't know what's coming. It's just because maybe they're not prepared to handle the coursework as it's coming. That's going to transition me into my next point. Get the procrastination DNA out of you immediately if you can help it. Because one of the differences in high school was you kind of went over what you needed to go over in class, and then you would go home and you do your homework. And then the teacher would kind of continue off of the homework, and it would just be like a continuous cycle all the way into the end. Now, for those of you who are taking AP, you might have already experienced something like this, but if you have not and you're going into college, the professor, right, expects you to go home and do more work on your own. So when you get that syllabus, right, it's going to say something like, this is the first lecture and this is your first homework assignment. You're going to find that most of the lecture the professor's talking, they're going to be super intelligent and they're going to be telling you all about, what's going on in the book, the textbook. That information will no longer suffice to complete the homework. You're going to actually have to go home and study and open your textbook and actually read and do more work on your own in order to complete the assignment. And the professors are expecting this out of you now that you're an adult. So just understand that there's going to be more required of you to get your work done. You may have to hit your head a little bit at first to understand the detriment of it, but I'm just getting you prepared right now. If you can learn to just, sit down, get to work, and understand that more is required of you, you'll find that you'll have a lot less stress transitioning. Also, professors are not they're not your babysitters. In high school, teachers are more like babysitters. They call your parents when you act up. They check on you to make sure your schoolwork is getting done. Professors do not have this obligation. They are there to teach their subject of expertise, and they're there for academic engagement, and that's about it. If you are not doing your work, it is not their obligation to check up on you and ask you if everything's okay. They may do this if they actually have concern for you or their students, but that is not an obligation of them. If you are failing their class, they will not look at you and say, hey, I need to, what's going on? They will continue to teach, and they will just continue to do what they do until the class is over. So if you are not doing good, don't expect your professors to bail you out. You're going to have to take full responsibility, and you're going to have to either seek them during their office hours, or you're going to have to just put in the extra work to get the passing credit. So with all that said, the transition of college can be very intimidating, but just understanding that, it's going to come with some stress. It's going to come with some, headaches, but don't worry, you'll get over it. So anyways, let me get to the next transition here. Let's talk about lifestyle. So lifestyle in college is, it's consumed with friends. It's consumed with football games, you name it, sporting events, college hangout spots, campus clubs, all that stuff, all of the above is pretty much considered lifestyle on a college campus. Now, here's the catch. I know this is going to be unpopular for me to say this, but I'm saying this. It's your prerogative. It's your choice, right? If you want to do this, but do not choose a college just because it's fun. I know that's going to make some people upset, but where I'm coming, hear me out, right? When I say this, I'm not saying don't choose a college that you want to go to, because some colleges you're going to perform more than others. But if the reason being is that specifically this college is fun, then unfortunately that's not a good reason. Because let me tell you something, don't go to a college campus looking for fun, because fun will find you. You don't have to chase after fun. Trust me. Fun will be there, and it'll be there in excess. And it's like that on most campuses. I mean, very few universities are that much of a tightrope that there's nothing going on. But trust me, fun is in abundance at every single campus you go to. So if fun is your biggest concern, you will not have a shortage of fun. That being said, the reasons why you should go is because the program that you want to study is really good, or maybe the cost of tuition is right in your budget, or maybe the school just has the perfect faculty to student ratio. Those are the best reasons as to why you go. Or I don't know, if you like sports, I guess I could say if you like sports and you get to choose between going to Alabama Crimson Tide versus going to, I don't know, Southeast Illinois University or whatever, then maybe you might want to go to Bama because they'll have better football games. All of those reasons I said, those are understandable. But if it is specifically just for fun, then my friend, I'm letting you know that it's going to be a wasted decision, because you're going to have a lot of opportunity for fun. Now, with that being said, when I say do not chase the fun, it's going to be your job to chase the networking and chase the resources that you're going to need in order for you to succeed in college. So let me explain. You're going to have to actually make time to get to know your professors, because especially the ones in your major, because those are going to be some of the most important connections you'll make, because those will be some of your first recommendation letters for the professional world. If you're going to grad school, you're going to need those connections to help you get some more references, recommendations. And professors can also be a great tool for helping you understand just maybe some, life guidance or maybe career guidance. Because if you're not planning to do further study in the field, they can point you into other career areas that are going to be more beneficial to the major that you're doing. Now, with that being said, when it comes to friends on campus, college is going to be a place where you can build some of the most memorable relationships you will ever have. You might be meeting some lifelong friends. You might be meeting some future business partners, possibly spouses. They have the ring before spring on some campuses, or I forgot what they call it. It's ring before spring and something else. I can't remember what the other term was. But your MRS degree, for those who are wondering. So MRS for Mrs. Your MRS degree. So you're going to be meeting possibly some of the most important people for the majority of your life. Now, this may not be the case for everybody, but this is usually the case for a lot of people. And you're going to have to make some important decisions, because I will say this, if I'm being honest, college is a place where you can develop some of the best habits of your life, and it's also a place where you could start some of the worst habits in your life. So college is a place where you can start to see people get some of their best qualities, and you can also see people develop some of their worst qualities. Now, with choosing friends, I will say this: have a bunch of friends who have different abilities compared to you. For example, have a friend that's a little adventurous, meaning that they're willing to go places. Have a friend that's a study nut. So that way, if you ever need to study or you feel like you don't study enough, be around that person when it's time to study. Because if anything, you and them can socialize while they're studying. And that's always a chill time. Have a friend who is, real business savvy. Try to have a friend who's an expert in something that you're not really good at, or friends in all, aspects of different strengths and weaknesses. Find a friend who's fit, who likes to go work out and stuff. Again, this is not to turn you into another person, but this is just for a good influence of, just getting you prepared for what's to come. Now, I say that all of that to say, um, good friends are going to challenge you. Bad friends are going to pressure you. And I have to give you an example because some people might not really know how to discern or, differentiate the two of those. So let's say, for example, again, you're new to college, you're a sheltered person, you've never been anywhere, you don't really go to social events, things of that sort. You like to keep to yourself a lot. You may have a friend who might say something like, "Hey, it's Friday. Let's go to this place." That because every campus usually has designated areas off campus that are like marketed towards college students spending their money there. So it's like a college hangout spot. It could be a bar, it could be some form of a restaurant, or maybe even a club of some sort. Now, this friend who's asking you to go to this, and let's say you're the person that's never been this kind of person, go. Right? Because at the end of the day, as long as it's in a place where it's like, everything's legal and, you don't have to participate in everything that's going on, just go, learn to socialize, just learn to see people in different elements, just get the experience really, right? And if you don't enjoy it, you don't have to go, but just go. Just go for the sake of just challenging yourself. But now, I'm not telling you to go to a party that's like after 11:30 at night, and then there's all kinds of nonsense going on, and possibly the police could get called and shut it down and all that other stuff. That's a different conversation. I'm not telling you to go to that. It's your right to do whatever you want to do. Your parents won't be watching you, so it's your choice. But what I will say is choose to friends that are going to challenge you to get out of your comfort zone rather than pressuring you, because you will meet some people who try to pressure you. And that is not something that is for the faint of heart. With that being said, also, for those of you who are popular in your high school, or for those of you who were not popular, when you go to a college, especially a college that has an enrollment that's larger than, I want to say, 4,500 students, right? Yeah, 4,500 should be good enough. So that means over 4,500 students attend that campus. That whole dynamic in itself of being popular and unpopular, it goes down the drain. So if you are a person that's used to getting a lot of attention on, from high school, and you're looking to go to college and flex and show off to everybody that you're this cooler than life individual, the reality is most people are not going to care. And the only way they're going to care is maybe if you're some kind of social media celebrity on campus. And even then, people still don't care as much. And I'll explain why that is. In college, people are adults now, right? There's no more of that, how would I say, that dynamic of you being higher than me and me being, because we can all make our own decisions. We're all free to be who we want to be. We're all chasing after our careers, our goals. That doesn't mean that you're not a cool person. It just means people are not going to look for you. They're not going to necessarily just connect with you because you're a popular individual. So you want to consider, if you're going to go, you can still be yourself, but just get to work, find the people who are going to be your friends and just continue from there. For those of you who are unpopular and you feel like you have no status, well, if you go to college, I promise you, there's going to be other people who are, more mature, and they're going to still want to connect with you, get to know you, and people will appreciate you. Most of that stuff kind of dies on the drain. The only people who are truly popular on a big college campus, if I'm being honest with you guys, are the athletes and maybe the really smart geniuses who are the student body presidents or maybe doing some cutting edge research on the campus, or anybody who is involved in a scandal on campus, which that's not the way to get famous on a campus. But Those are the most popular people. And usually, even with the sports, it's usually the football and basketball players, for those of you who haven't noticed already. And those guys get swarmed by everybody on campus. So good luck trying to be friends with those guys. And if it's if it's what I was going to say, if it's other sports, if depending on how big the sports programs are, even then some of the other athletes will not be as popular. So that's not to discourage you, but that's just to give you the right perspective of saying, don't go there thinking that you're going to be the coolest person in the world, because nobody cares about that. Unfortunately, from my own experience, I've seen a lot of students who came to college with that attitude, and trust me, they knew how to party, they knew how to, do all that stuff, but ultimately they usually ended up cutting their college journey short. They dropped out, or maybe they have to come back or something else because they probably came to college with the wrong mindset. It's, nobody's really trying to be the most liked person. Everybody's just trying to get on with their lives and get their goals done. People are going to go from never having a girlfriend to having a girlfriend. If you didn't have a car, you're probably going to get your first car. If you didn't have nice things like, shoes and stuff, you're probably going to work a summer job or two, or work a job on campus. And then that's going to help you get those things that you were probably missing in high school that maybe might have made you feel a little inferior. So college is kind of like a level playing field for a lot of people to find themselves. So, yeah. So, next lecture, networking. Networking, guys, I can't stress it. Obviously, as we see in society, networking is super important. But how does this play in college? College, so if I can be honest with you guys, right? What makes certain schools more prominent than others is not just GPA, because every college campus you go to, there are some geniuses on the campus. Trust me. If you think you're a genius, you just wait till you get to a college campus and you'll find some extraordinary people. And that doesn't matter what campus, there's always going to be somebody who's doing something great. And maybe you're that person too. But I'm saying this to say, understand that as far as the college experience, a lot of colleges are known because of their alumni network, right? The alumni, for those of you who are not familiar with that term, which I know a lot of you probably are by now, are people who have went to your college, as other fellow graduates, or people attended grad school or whatever. They're people who have also been through your college system. The beauty of that is that usually the colleges that usually tend to have the more successful alumni usually are the more prestigious institutions. And this is just how it works all across the board. So Ivy League schools, for example, when they started in their day, they were also just small little colleges that nobody cared about. But through course of time and through their age and the amount of influence they've had, they've been able to create, a big alumni network, of very prestigious individuals, presidents, judges, you name it, all kinds of prestigious individuals. So that's what gives these universities their prestige. And they usually tend to gatekeep a certain level of studentship in order to try to replicate the level of prestige that they have. So why am I saying this? Colleges are actually great playgrounds for companies looking to hire talent that's going to graduate. Now, they're not going to shove this in your face, right? College is a business. You as the customer have to make sure you get the desired product you want. Why am I saying that? Because all the college really cares about, guys, is that you attend your classes and that, you continue to pass them, because they're getting paid, right? Per credit or credit hour, or I don't know how they do it, but you're paying tuition, you're paying for all those classes, you're paying for your dorm. That's all they really care about. And that's their only job to facilitate. As far as the other stuff, as like the networking, companies come to college campuses all the time, guys. And they're usually there to give presentations. They'll probably come by, give a lecture, give a speech. It's probably sponsored by a professor who's in this field that the company is geared in, or it's possibly done by a club or a student organization that is, I don't know, associated with the company in some sort of way. When the companies come, they don't just come to give lectures. They also look to network with people who are eager for opportunities. Now, you're going to have to find your college career network, whatever that is. Find that and, get those events on your calendar. Because as I said again, those events will not be as often as the fun that you can have on campus. And trust me when I say that. I wish I would have attended way more of these events, because I could have made so many more connections. I could have got so much more information as to what I wanted to do once I got out of college. But guys, when I tell you, There's going to be fun every day. Do not worry. If one of these events is happening, if one of these events is happening on a Friday at 7:30, I promise you will not regret it. Go to that event. There will be another Friday for you to goof off or hang out with your friends or play video games or go out. Trust me when I say that. But get those events on your calendar and go to them because you're going to learn a lot. It's probably going to even help you decide whether the major you're in is the right major because maybe you might find that the actual work in the field is not for you. So I stress the importance of getting to those career networks events and just, going and hearing from the people and seeing what they have to say. So I was talking about professors. Now I have to kind of give you guys a very, very honest take on professorship. So remember when I said professors are not obligated to look out for your best interests? Here's the worst part. Professors not obligated to like you, and you're not obligated to like them. So remember how in school, your teachers might not have liked you, but they still kind of acted, how would I say, very friendly. A professor, you and a professor could not see eye to eye on a lot of things, maybe based on the course material, maybe based off of attitude, for whatever reason. And the thing is, guys, they don't have to like you, and you don't have to like them. And you're going to have to understand that sometimes there's going to be professors who just don't gel with you. Don't take it personal. Understand that you're an adult, they're an adult, and it's a business relationship, right? You need to take this class, you just need to pass it, and you just need to move on. If you try to make amends with this professor and it's not working, do not worry. Just get to the next class. I think we've all had professors who we didn't necessarily see eye to eye with, all of us who went to college. And listen, all of us went through the class and just passed it. Do your work, keep your head down. If you need to go to their office hours, go to their office hours. If you feel like you and the TA get along better, because you will have TAs, especially the bigger schools. Sometimes you don't even have time for the professors. Usually TAs teaching you the material. But the point is that if you have to go through the TA, go through the TA to get your office hours, to get your homework, help you with all that. But don't worry about not getting along with the professor. This will happen. And there's no way of avoiding it. You can go on ratemyprofessors.com. There's many resources to see students leave reviews on professors. But honestly, guys, the reason why I'm stressing this is because as much as you want to see all these reviews, usually every major tends to have one or two professors that are not so much, how would I say, likable, or maybe not the best to get along with. And there's just no way of avoiding it. And the reason why it's important is because it's a teacher for life. It's a lesson that you're learning that you will go to work, just like how you went to school with people you probably didn't like. You went to, you played on teams with people you didn't like. Well, this is just another level of saying that sometimes you're going to have to work under people and work with people you don't like. And that's just a part of that honest growth that I was talking about that happens on a college campus. So just keep that in mind. Always remember the professors are there to teach you. Your job is to take the course material and just do your best to learn. Keep in mind, though, professors can also become great friends. I have some professors who I still have their phone numbers to this day. And, obviously I've built a relationship with them away from the class, got to talk to them. I've met some of their families. Again, so that's also the difference in college dynamic. Both of you and your professor are adults. And if you guys have a great relationship as far as being friends, the relationship can always go one step further as far as not just being friends in the classroom, but you can also become friends in real life. And they're eager to learn from you just as much as you're eager to learn from them. So keep that in mind. Sometimes professors want to hear from you. So when they're in there teaching and you have something you want to say that sounds really smart, and it's not gonna try to embarrass them or put them on the spot, they might want to hear it because honestly, they're learning too. They're I think a lot of people look at professors as like they just know it all, but the truth is, guys, is professors are learners just like me and you. They're students of their field. It's just that they've gotten to a level of mastery. But while they're not teaching students, they're still continuously doing research in their fields and looking for studies or topics that engage interest. So if you can always gauge your professor's brain, don't be afraid to do so. But just make sure it's not at the cost of taking the class, all right? Because some of them, they're going to have an ego and they're not going to want to hear from students. So just read the room and get to understand that. So we're ready for the next transition. Next lecture, jobs. So welcome to college, guys. Now you're officially living on your own, away from your parents, or some of you still living with your parents. And now you're not in school anymore. And now you have free time. And guess what? You want things, right? And things cost money. You want to go out with your friends. You want to buy a certain pair of sneakers. You want to buy some clothes, or you want to put gas in your car. Well, welcome to a job if you've never had one. Better if you've had one before college, but if you've never had a job, welcome to the world of needing to get a job. Now, getting a job in college is not the most difficult thing because, especially if you live in a college town, there are a lot of companies, retailers that will hire college students on a part-time basis because it's easier. Trust me, guys, I feel like it's a lot easier for people to hire a college student trying to find their way than, even a grown adult sometimes. So there are jobs out there. You can also get jobs on campus, whether it's with the grounds department, whether it's being a TA, whether it's working in the library, even the dining hall, serving food, cleaning tables. There's usually some form of work on campus. And if you can't find it on campus, then, look outside, out of the campus, maybe find a company that's not too far. Internships as well for the summertime. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because when you go to college, you're usually told through your life that, hey, when you go to college, you're going to graduate with your bachelor's and you're going to be ready for the job market. Now, while that all sounds nice and dandy, a lot of job seekers are looking for experience. And this is not something that they hike up when they tell you to go to college and get that degree. You will need experience to impress a lot of job employers right after you graduate. And I don't want to say it's like a hidden fact or something, but I don't think it gets talked about enough. The reason why is because I want you to think about it. When you get your bachelor's degree, it's an accomplishment because you went through 4 years of coursework, of late nights, studying, doing what you need to do. But you have to remember when you're applying to a job, a lot of the other candidates are also going to have a bachelor's degree, especially entry level jobs. So what's going to set you apart from somebody else who has a bachelor's degree? Your experience. Now, experience is great. If you can get internships, guys, if you don't want to work a job in college, I would still say get internships during the summer or during whatever time you can, because the internship will definitely help you prepare you for the field that you're going to still show the employer that you've had some experience in the field. Now, if you can't get an internship in your field, then getting any kind of job will help you, whether it's working in a grocery store, whether it's working on campus. You just want to be able to show employers that you're responsible and that you can handle, working. And usually with things that you learn on the job, you will be able to use that for your interview to get your first job. And as I said, for the people who have more streamlined degrees, such as the STEM people, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, most of the time they can usually get internships. And then especially like the medical students, it's a little harder for them to work because they're going through a lot more strenuous coursework and, late nights. So most of the time, their thing is taken care of if they, stay the course and, go to med school and all the other stuff, and that takes care of the rest. But for those of you who have these valuable degrees, and I'm saying valuable with quotation marks, getting a job is going to help boost your credibility for the job market after graduation. So I can't stress that. When I actually did not hold a quote unquote full-time job, but I did paint walls one summer. I did clean carpets another summer. I was a mentor to first generation college students. I I was a speaker for prospective students and parents at the university. So believe it or not, all those things actually were things that I worked as Comcast as a customer service agent remotely as well. All of those things helped me land my first job when I got out of college. So with that being said, all the experience you can get before you graduate. Please get it. And if you can get jobs even when you're in high school and still take that with you to college, it shows a great sign of work ethic that a lot of employers will find very valuable. Because think, if you have the choice to hire a student with a 4.0 GPA, but then you've got another student who had a 3.5 GPA, but there have been leaders of clubs and organizations and they've worked many places on campus, who do you think is going to be a better fit for the job? So always think, what experience can I gain in order to help me get my foot in the door? Also, graduate school. Graduate school is something that you really won't have to look into, so I'm not going to venture too deep into it. However, but graduate school is, obviously getting your master's, your doctorates. That is something that is a post-grad thing, so you'd have to get your bachelor's first. But for those of you who are majoring in fields that are not necessarily high demand, I would highly recommend, like, for example, if you're psychology, just know if you're wanting to work in the field of psychology, even to do social work, you're most likely going to need your master's of social work. So I would just say only look into the fields that you want to study in and see if grad school is going to be almost a necessary requirement to stay in that field. For example, what's another field? Can't think. Like maybe music or something. You might have to get your master's or your PhD in music education in order to actually teach music at the college level. So I'm just saying that to say, just pay a little attention. When you first start, you don't really have to be so into it, but you want to make sure your grades are good, and that if that's something you have to do, you'd have to start that conversation with the professors around your second year or so that way they can also help prepare you to get ready for grad school. But that's just something I'm throwing in there. It's not really that important right now. Your advisors work for the university. They don't necessarily work for you. Why am I saying that? College advisors, and depending on what university you go to, sometimes they can actually be professors themselves. But usually most universities tend to have academic advisors who their only job is to focus on helping students graduate on time, as they say. You need to do your own research as to how many credit hours your major needs in order for you to graduate and what courses you need to take. Do not just sit in front of the advisor not knowing what's going on, because the reality is, guys, is if you're not prepared, those advisors, for the most part, are not going to feel guilty about enrolling you into more classes that, it's either going to make you graduate later, or it's going to slow you down, or it might be a course you don't need. They're not going to feel guilty because, again, as I said, the university is a business, and the more courses you take, it's the more money going into their pocket. And that's not to hinder them. That's just to say that's how their model works. You as a customer, as I said again, have to make sure you're getting your money's worth. So listen to your advisor, but also understand that you have to do your own preparation and know what you need while you're talking to your advisor. So that way you don't get caught up in being in a situation of, oh, I took this class, I didn't have to take it, or I have to graduate a year later now, because that's real. Some people end up having to graduate a semester later or a year later or even 2 years. So you want to make sure you know what you need. Now, this may be a little harder if you switch majors a few times, because sometimes if you switch majors, you're going to have to take certain courses and it might have to extend your timeline before graduation. So make sure before you talk to the advisors, do your own research. Not all advisors are bad people, but some of them genuinely just don't care, and they will make you enroll for classes galore until you're blue in the face. So I'm just giving you a heads up. Make sure the advisor is also aware that you know what you need, because if you know what you need, they'll usually tend not to beat around the bush and they'll try to help you. Living on campus versus living off campus. So living off campus is a cheat code, definitely, especially if you live locally, because you'll be not paying that tuition for the dorm cost, or all the meal plans, all that other stuff. But you definitely will have if you're trying to get a true college experience, you will have to leave the house a lot and go on campus, because when you're not on campus, it's easy to get lost and not connected to anything. So if you're going to live off campus, that's fine. But if you really want that real college experience, you're going to have to make an effort to be on campus, even when you're not taking classes, going to clubs, going to the rec center, going to games and things like that. If you are going to live on campus, it'll be easier to have the traditional college experience, but you will get homesick a little bit. You're gonna have to get used to sharing a dorm with somebody. You're gonna have to get used to using the restroom and the showers, having all your materials together. It can be a bit of a transition, especially if you're used to living in a house where you have your own room, your own bathroom, all that other stuff. So just keep that in mind. But it can be fun, and you will have to pay the tuition with for the dorm as well, which is costly a lot of the times, but you still get to have a good time. You get to kind of get that sense of culture. Again, not too important. So that's kind of going to be my conclusion on that. I shouldn't have to say this, but I'm going to. Stay out of trouble. When you're in college, as I said again, your parents are no longer responsible for you as your body. You are now a grown adult. The state considers you to be an individual agent. You're no longer dependent on your parents. If you get in trouble, the consequences will fall on your shoulders. Now, I'm not gonna be there, so I'm not gonna say I'm gonna be watching you, telling you what you can and cannot do. Any decision you make on the campus, guys, in regards to sexual assault or violence against another student or another person, or just breaking campus rules, you may face the penalties of arrest. So I'm only saying that because sometimes if you're in trouble, the committee will decide to suspend you, or they may put you on academic probation. But if you break certain laws, guys, you will not be hidden from arrest. Now, of course, I know what you're going to say, piggy trust fund kids, maybe the parents write a check. Yes, that can happen. But for the most part, if you get into trouble, guys, those penalties will be directly attributed to you. And your parents are going to get a phone call to say that you're in trouble. If anything, if they have money, maybe the most they can do is bail you out. But it will be your record that will be impeded. So keep in mind, every decision you make, understand this is the beginning of your life now. Your responsibility. Anything that you do that goes against you, it will be on your record. And that's even before you get into the job market. So just understand, this is your future. I want to see you succeed. So that's the only reason why I'm sharing this. Certain things, whether it be dating, because trust me, you're gonna have you're gonna hear about stories about people dating and making mistakes and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. You're gonna hear stories of people getting into fights. You're going to see protests, things like that on the campus, because the college life is a very different life in the sense that you have a lot of people trying to figure out what they want and what they're going through. So that can be a difficult time for some people to process all of that. So remember, stay out of trouble. With that being said, I also did mention dating. So what I will say is this with the dating. I did say you might find your spouse on a college campus. Now, that's not the case for everybody. Maybe back then it was more the case, but not so much now. What I will say is college is a time where you will be around the most people of the opposite gender because you're kind of forced to, because you're going to class, you're on campus a lot. Don't take that for granted. Learn to date, if you can. Learn to see people, go out with them. As I'm not going to tell you how far to go or how far to stay back, but just understand that you're in a vicinity now, people in your own age, who are looking to learn stuff and just, date. Because as I said, you're gonna be around a lot of girls or guys, and it's not gonna be like that once you get out. Once you get out, you're gonna have to work. You're gonna have to get up at a certain time, come home at a certain time. So to make friends and to have relationships is going to be another job in its own self. So take advantage of the situation that college puts you in to be able to socialize with many people. So that's really where I'm leaving that. I'm not gonna cross the lines. I'm gonna let you explore your boundaries on that, or talk with your parents, or do whatever you got to do. All in all, guys, college can be a very rewarding experience. And tell you the truth, it's a path of exploration. That's what it really is to me. You're gonna find that even if some people are not going through college, usually the ages that people go to college is going to be around 18 to 25. And that journey of life it's very fun. It's also bittersweet because you're going to be going through some rough cracks and some crevices because you're still going to be figuring out, who you are, where you fit into this world. But you're also going to be learning about yourself and being, you're going to be happy because you're going to be achieving things and doing things you thought that you would not have done or ever thought you would do. And like I said, it's just a very unique experience. I mean, I kind of sometimes miss those days when I was grinding to try to get to the other side and, see some success, which I have done. Would I do it all over again? No. But is it something that I love to remember, something that I cherish? Yes. And I'm just saying, if you go to college, I just wanted to make this video because when I went, I was first generation. I didn't have a whole lot of guidance as to how to go about things. I didn't take advantage of all the resources. But now that I've been through and obviously I graduated, I just want to share some advice and some sound feedback for the people who are going to embark on this journey and to make sure that they get the most for their money, they get the best time that they possibly can, and that they stay out of the most trouble that they possibly can. So I want to wish you the best of luck on your journey, and whatever major you choose, just make sure that you're learning not just in the classroom, but you're learning about the world and how to navigate it, because ultimately that will be the real test once you graduate. Because once you graduate, there's no more classes. It's just real life. And with that being said, we're now going to transition into the last lecture. Welcome to Poem Time with StarRow. So this is the first time I'm doing it, but I'm making a new segment of my podcast called Poem Time. Now, mind you, this was a very long episode. The episodes generally won't be this long unless I have a guest. But for this episode, I'm just giving an introduction so that way you guys know what this is when it comes on. So when Poem Time is happening, you will start to hear music, and I'm going to have a poem about the episode and maybe something that I can use to connect with you guys just so you can at least remember the heart of the message of the episode. But anyways, this is the first one, so this is just an introduction. So I want to share this poem with you, and I hope you guys enjoy it. College comes with a lot of examination, but it is a preparation of what, you say? Your imagination. I urge you during your class presentations, focus on your final destinations, or you will fall into the trap of procrastination. Whether you like the humanities and its possibilities, or business and its association to richness, or science and its reliance, religion, fact or fiction, or the arts, which tells the story of our hearts. While this is not a prediction, just an estimation, your biggest asset won't be the education, but your imagination. Don't just look at dissertations, but focus on the conversations. But build meaningful relations, so after graduation, you can contribute to this nation. Thank you very much, guys. I'm StarRow. If any of you have been to college, or if any of you found any of this advice helpful, please comment below, like the video, and subscribe. Have a great day, and best wishes to all of you graduates.